On behalf of Children and Family Futures and the Family Drug Court Learning Academy, welcome to our webinar presentation. Special thanks to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, who supports the National Family Drug Court Training and Technical Assistance Program. For more information about Children and Family Futures, the Learning Academy, and the Family Drug Court Training and Technical Assistance Program, please visit our website at www.cffutures.org. We hope you find this presentation helpful as you strengthen your partnerships and improve outcomes in your family drug court.
Hi, my name is Marissa Cauliflower, and I'm a program specialist at Children and Family Futures, and I want to welcome you to our presentation, Teen Matters, Meeting the Needs of Adolescent Youth. For the next few moments, I invite you to reimagine yourself as a 16-year-old again. You're probably thinking, why would anyone want to recall this time of their life? But bear with me for a few moments here. Where did you live and who did you live with? Where did you go to school? How did you do? Who were your friends? Who did you not get along with? Who was there and who wasn't there for you during this time? What were your hopes and dreams? What were your greatest fears? How did you feel about yourself? How did you feel about your future? Now, imagine writing a letter to your 16-year-old self. Many people who have actually written letters to their younger selves have found this process helpful to heal pain, forgive themselves, gain closure, clarity, or inner peace. What kind of strengths and potential do you see in yourself? What words of wisdom would you share? What did you wish you knew then but didn't? What kind of encouragement or reassurance would you give? This is the kind of mindset we want you to have as we explore opportunities to effectively meet the needs of adolescent youth. This mindset is inspired by the strength, resilience, promise, and potential that exist in all youth if we open our hearts and minds to seeing them. In this presentation, we will challenge common practices, attitudes, assumptions, and biases about youth in the child welfare and juvenile justice system. Some of these include adults, professionals, and caregivers know better about what adolescent youth need and should do. The youth's behavior determines the opportunities or services they get. Evaluating youth as doing okay or making poor decisions based on a set of external behavior. Youth shouldn't remain in contact with their biological families because they are a bad influence and part of the problem. Youth are destined to recreate the family situation they've experienced. After age 18, youth don't need support and should learn how to live on their own. For too long, our approach in supporting youth in the foster care system has focused on the negative rather than the positive, controlling or punishing versus understanding what's behind the behaviors and providing meaningful incentives to change them, independent living rather than interdependent connections, and minimizing risk rather than maximizing opportunities. By examining these biases, you will be positioned to hear what youth and families need and leverage the strengths they bring to the table. It's important to clarify what population of adolescents we will be exploring today. We will first start from what we know universally about adolescents, and then we'll focus on youth in the child welfare system, including those who are affected by parental substance use. Then we will also explore youth who have their own substance use disorders, including those involved in the juvenile justice system. Finally, we will touch on crossover youth that are involved in both the child welfare and juvenile justice system. We hope this presentation will spark deeper thinking and conversations about which population is most relevant to your program. If you are part of a family treatment court and are primarily focused on children ages 0 to 5, we hope this presentation will encourage you to begin thinking about how you can serve older siblings that are part of those families. By applying an integrated approach that is developmental informed, family-centered, and community-based, you will be better equipped to serve a population that is often forgotten or invisible in many family treatment courts. If you are not part of the family treatment court, we hope you still find this presentation helpful as you too consider implementing this integrated approach, particularly with youth and families affected by substance use disorders. So let's get started. What do we know universally about adolescents commonly thought to be between the ages of 13 to 19? We know that adolescence is a time of rapid brain development. Research has shown that the brain is not fully formed at puberty as earlier thought. Rather, the brain continues important maturation that is not complete until about age 25. The brain's frontal lobes, especially the prefrontal cortex, which governs reasoning, decision-making, judgment, and impulse control, are the last parts of the brain to reach full development. This would explain the behaviors that characterize teenagers, such as volatile emotions, risk-taking and boundary testing, exploration and assertion of personal identity, navigation of peer relationships, and transition to independence. Some of these behaviors are simply part of normative development and are difficult to manage. Parent-youth conflict is common during adolescence, a period during which teens are seeking more independence and renegotiating the parent-child relationship. Adolescent substance use, trauma experience, and adverse childhood experiences can also affect brain function, behaviors, and relationships. Teens and their families can come to the attention of child welfare and juvenile justice systems when their behaviors become too difficult to manage and result in serious conflict. We see this issue played out when you look at some child welfare data. First, child behavior is the reason for entry for a significant number of teens. Once in the system, we typically let youth's behaviors, good and bad, determine the opportunities or services they get. We sometimes see this in independent living programs where support are directed to those who are motivated and most likely to do well, while those who need it most, the kids who are struggling or not interested in school and employment, are left without structural supports after they turn 18. Sometimes it's the complete opposite, where negative behavior gets the most attention, while the quiet kids slip through the cracks and remain invisible. When we let behaviors be the primary motivation, we can miss out on what youth really need. Remember, they are part of the family, and that a family-centered approach requires that we see the issues they are facing and they're healing through those relationships. Also, if we really want to know what youth need, ask them and listen. What do we know about the adolescent population in child welfare? We know that 400,000 plus children in foster care, about 27% of them are ages 13 or above. Once they enter foster care, older youth have vastly different experiences than other age groups. Older youth have longer stays in care. 30% of older youth have spent 2 years or more in care since their most recent removal, compared to 15% of children under age 14. Older youth are more likely to experience placement instability, with 40% having 4 or more placements during their most recent stay in foster care, compared to only 15% of children under age 14. Placement instability can negatively impact youth in numerous areas, including relationships, behavioral and emotional well-being, and education. Older youth who do not achieve permanency, reunification, adoption, or guardianship before reaching the age at which foster care services are terminated in their stay are considered to have aged out. Aging out is associated with an array of other negative outcomes, including early pregnancy, dropping out of high school, and homelessness, which are not only detrimental to the individual, but costly to us as a society. For children in out-of-home care, placement instability and a lack of permanency are predictors of delinquency, with an estimated 30% of these children becoming involved in juvenile justice systems. Some of you may be serving youth that are involved in both child welfare and juvenile justice systems. These youths are often referred to as crossover or dual status youth and may or may not be involved in both systems at the same time. Dually identified youth are currently involved with the juvenile justice system and are not currently involved in the child welfare system, though they have been involved with it in the past. Dually involved youth are concurrently involved with the child welfare and juvenile justice system, either through diversion, formal involvement, or a combination of both. Depending on how broadly dual system involvement is defined, estimates of youth in the juvenile justice system with child welfare involvement is upwards of 50%. This connection between child welfare and juvenile delinquency is concerning for a number of reasons. Youth who have contact with both systems are more likely to suffer a host of problems: higher recidivism, higher rates of academic failure, mental health problems, and substance use. Additionally, since youth of color are disproportionately represented in both the juvenile justice and child welfare systems, this disproportionality is magnified among dual status youth. Clearly, there is a need to do better for all youth involved in these systems. Let's talk about the opportunities. If adolescence is a period of rapid brain development, then developmentally it is as critical as the first few years of life. Since each stage of life depends on what has come before it, children do not enter adolescence with a blank slate. Adolescent development is partially a consequence of earlier life experiences. However, these early life experiences are not determinative. And since the adolescent brain is a work in progress, it opens up what some advocates call the second window of opportunity. The adaptive plasticity of adolescence marks this period as a window of opportunity for change through which mechanisms of resilience, recovery, and development are possible. This is clearly a game changer for all of us working with youth, especially those who are involved in the child welfare and juvenile justice system. A second window allows us to see them as still forming individuals with purpose and potential. A second window affords professionals an opportunity to re-examine practice and policies to ensure that youth are not further traumatized through their involvement in our services and systems. A second window allows more time to work with adolescents if we start early and extend the time to align with developmental science. We know that early adolescence is different than later adolescence, which looks different than young adulthood. We can maximize the opportunity if we start at the onset of puberty, which is such an important time to intervene rather than waiting until later in adolescence when signs begin to emerge. Child welfare agencies are applying developmental science starting independent living earlier. Many states have extended foster care to align what we know about the adolescent brain. As a result, studies have shown that youth who remain in foster care after 18 have higher rates of enrollment in high school completion programs and college and better access to health care, as well as lower rates of unemployment, homelessness, and incarceration. We also know that the developmental stage of young people in their late teens and early 20s is often characterized as transitional in nature. Multiple transitions can occur in relationships where they live, attend school, and where they work. A second window allows us to invest timely support during this unique period so that young people can develop knowledge, skills, and confidence to carry throughout their lives. A second window allows us to change the trajectories of adolescent youth and disrupt those well-known pipelines that we talked about earlier. Each of us have a role and stake in maximizing the second window of opportunity and promoting positive spirals or trajectories that support healing and learning for some of the most at-risk youth. What do some of those positive trajectories look like? Let's spend the remainder of this presentation outlining some of those opportunities. First, there is an opportunity to engage the family in the healing and recovery process. We know that parental substance use can impact the parent-child relationship and that many youth in the child welfare system experience difficulties with attachment stemming from early experiences of inconsistent caregiving, separation, and frequent placement changes. These can have a profound, lifelong consequence if unresolved. For those families affected by substance use disorders, we know that the parent-child relationship cannot be separated from the recovery and healing process. Parent education is one of the essential service components in a child welfare case plan. Unfortunately, there aren't many parenting programs for parents of older youth who want to parent their adolescent child but feel hopelessly stuck in chronic conflict. Most parenting programs and approaches are generic and prescriptive in trying to fix the child's behavior rather than helping to build parenting competencies and skills. Some communities have been implementing an attachment-based parenting program called Connect, which is a 10-week manualized parenting program delivered in a group format to parents and caregivers of adolescent youth with serious behavioral and internalizing behaviors. The approach is worth highlighting here. In Connect, the pathway to improving teens' behaviors is to change the parent's approach from trying to control behaviors to a desire in understanding and identifying feelings and thoughts that make parenting difficult. Sessions introduce attachment principles that specifically focus on adolescent and parenting and include role plays and activities that promote parental self-reflection, learning, and parenting skill development. By shifting the focus from problems to strengths and promoting the relationship as a shared partnership, the family is able to create a stronger bond, build skills to manage conflict, and overcome adversity and setbacks. Connecting families to evidence-based programming that adopts a strengths-based and collaborative approach can be an effective way to heal these relationships. For more information about Connect, please visit the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse website or the curriculum website. Many of you who are working in family treatment courts are more familiar with celebrating families and strengthening families. In each of these programs, there are age-appropriate breakout sessions for children, including youth and adolescents. For more information about these programs, please visit their websites. For youth that are at risk or have developed their own substance use disorder, a family-based approach can be an effective part of treatment. Some studies have shown that family-based treatments are superior to other individual and group treatment approaches. Healthy parental involvement in adolescent substance use disorder treatment strengthens the relationship between the parents and teen, increases adolescent self-disclosure, and results in greater reduction of adolescent substance use. Furthermore, family therapy can improve retention and engagement of youths in treatment. For parents who have their own substance use disorders, their engagement in their own recovery can be an essential part of healthy involvement in their youth's treatment as well. Family-based approaches address a wide array of problems, including family communication and conflict, other co-occurring behavioral, mental health, and learning disorders, problems with school or work attendance, and peer networks. Parent-child relationships are often improved through interventions that aim to develop empathy, sensitivity, and parental responses attuned to adolescent needs. Below are specific types of family-based treatments shown to be effective in treating adolescent substance use. Let me provide some overview remarks about multidimensional family therapy, which is used in many juvenile drug treatment courts. MFDT is a family-based treatment for adolescent substance use, delinquency, and other behavioral and emotional problems. Therapists work simultaneously in 4 interdependent domains: the adolescent, parent, family, and community. Therapy sessions are held alone with the youth, alone with the parents, and with youth and parents together. Once a therapeutic alliance is established and youth and parent motivation is enhanced, the therapist focuses on facilitating behavioral and interactional change. The final stage of therapy work to solidify behavioral and relational changes and launch the family successfully so that treatment gains are maintained. To learn more, you can visit www.mdft.org. To learn about other modalities, you can visit the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare. Some communities implement community reinforcement approach and family training, also known as CRAFT. CRAFT is a motivational model of family therapy used with families whose youth needs help with their substance use but is refusing treatment. This reticence to seek treatment and living with a family member with an untreated substance use disorder can have tangible consequences in terms of family relationships. CRAFT decidedly does not pressure families to attend treatment. Instead, it operates indirectly and gently through a concerned family member, such as a parent. By using positive reinforcement, therapists are able to influence adolescent behavior by changing the way the family interacts with them. I want to add one important dimension here as it relates to SUD treatment for adolescents. The prevalence of mental health disorders and trauma are disproportionately higher among youth involved in the juvenile justice and child welfare systems as compared with the general adolescent population. When matching appropriate treatment services to needs for youth, make sure a thorough assessment is completed to assess for co-occurring health issues, including depression, anxiety disorders, ADHD, and history of trauma. This will ensure that these issues will be addressed through evidence-based interventions and that gains made in SUD treatment and mental health services are maximized. To learn more, please review the National Institute of Drug Abuse resource, Principles of Adolescent Substance Use Disorder Treatment, a research-based guide on the NIDA website at www.drugabuse.gov. For families involved in juvenile justice due to adolescent substance use, engaging families can be particularly challenging. By this time, the level of frustration, conflict, and isolation may negatively impact parent engagement. Juvenile drug treatment courts, especially those who have prioritized a family-centered approach, are proving that family engagement, however, is a pathway for improved recovery and recidivism outcomes. Families can play a critical role in juvenile drug treatment courts if effectively engaged. A lack of engagement, however, can be a barrier to successful program completion. The National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, in partnership with the National Center for Youth Opportunity and Justice, developed a technical assistance brief entitled Engage, Involve, Empower: Family Engagement in Juvenile Drug Courts. That provides a comprehensive set of recommendations for successful engagement of families in the juvenile drug treatment court process. I want to highlight a few of these recommendations for family engagement. Commit to family engagement and involvement. Build family engagement, involvement, and respect into the mission, values, and governance of your juvenile drug treatment court. Support this commitment with program-wide trainings and ensure families and youth are at the table at all times. Start early and engage continuously. Early, effective, and authentic family engagement allows families to become fully involved and invested in the youth's drug treatment court experience. Foster cultural humility and linguistic competency. Juvenile drug treatment court staff must acquire concrete skills for communicating and working with diverse families. Integrating cultural humility and linguistic competency into your program helps create a bridge of trust between the family and program. Offer individualized and accessible services. It is important to tailor services and treatments to the individual needs of families, including their substance use and mental health treatment needs. Services and meetings must also be accessible to families so that they can fully participate. Develop youth and family leadership. Ensure families and youth are at the table at all times and invest in their leadership potential. Get family and youth feedback. Families and youth should play a central role in the juvenile drug treatment court's quality assurance and improvement process. This resource also includes a family engagement practices self-assessment tool that can help gauge where a juvenile drug treatment court's family engagement work stands, indicate areas for improvement, and validate existing efforts. By using this tool, courts have identified areas of strength and weakness so that they can make changes to improve program outcomes. To download this resource, please visit the NCJ-FCJ website at www.ncjfcj.org. Another family engagement inventory can be found on the Child Welfare Information Gateway. This tool is also designed to help assist professionals in child welfare, juvenile justice, behavioral health, early education, and education to learn how family engagement is defined and implemented across these fields of practice. To download this resource, please visit their link. We also know that time in the foster care system has not been a time of healing for many adolescent youth. Approximately half of older teens who leave foster care age out instead of being reunited or connected with a family. Youth who enter child welfare and exit without permanence are more likely to experience negative outcomes compared to other young adults. For these youth, we need to re-examine potential biases regarding the relationship with biological families. It is easy to discount the importance of healing these relationships when conflict has overtaken the situation or when reunification is no longer the plan. We should first listen to what youth desire and examine any biases we may have, such as teenagers should not remain in contact with their parents because they are a bad influence. Studies have shown and verified what many child welfare professionals already knew. That is, young people in foster care maintain strong hopes for connection to their families of origin, and many who age out seek to have a relationship with their biological families and even return to live with their families. In other words, if they do not go home, they will eventually seek home. Also, let's not forget about the sibling relationship. Many youth who have been separated and lost contact with their siblings want to reestablish these relationships and are asking caseworkers and agencies to do that for them. If you are working with adolescent youth in the child welfare system, make sure you make concerted efforts to ensure quality visitation between older youth and their siblings. There are many challenges, including time, distance, or willingness of foster parents that make regular siblings visits difficult. Readily available tools such as social media, phone, and email can help make this happen if maintaining these relationships are a priority. Ultimately, youth should be given voice and choice, also known as the family we choose, when defining who family is to them. This may certainly extend beyond their biological families to extended kin, other caring adults, peers, and the community, all of whom make up part of their social capital, which we will talk about now. So what is social and recovery capital? Why do they matter? And what can you do to support them? Social capital is the value created by investing in relationships and networks that are crucial to health, development, and functioning. They act as protective factors that build young people's knowledge, skills, and confidence, and aid in the successful transition to adulthood. The most secure, long-lasting, and strongest social capital for young people aging out of foster care is a permanent nuclear and extended family. For those young people who leave foster care without legal permanence, child welfare professionals should at least facilitate relational permanence through family-like connections to increase their well-being. Child welfare and juvenile justice systems have the opportunity to restore many of these connections which have been broken or disrupted as a result of their interventions. It is not enough to prepare youth for independent living and merely impart knowledge and teach certain skills in preparation for adulthood. Much like young children who must experience the trust of a consistent caregiver before they can confidently explore their environment, young people in foster care must experience interdependent living so that they can gain the knowledge, practical skills, and social capital that will support them into adulthood. Social capital is particularly critical for youth who belong or identify with communities of color and sexual orientation. This connection to the wider community helps clarify personal values, promote positive self-identity, and promote a sense of belonging, all of which are essential tasks for adolescent development. Recovery capital refers to the wide array of internal and external resources that a young person can draw upon to strengthen recovery from substance use disorders and resilience from trauma. Recovery capital includes personal resources, plus social relationships and resources in the community. Increases in recovery capital can spark positive turning points, spirals, or trajectories that can elevate coping abilities and enhance quality of life in all domains of recovery. Recovery is a process of change through which people improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. The 4 major dimensions that support recovery include: first, health, which involves managing their substance use disorder and mental health and making informed, healthy choices that support physical and emotional well-being. Secondly, home, which means having a stable or safe place to live. Next, purpose, which involves conducting meaningful daily activities and having the independence, income, and resources to participate in society. And finally, community, which means having relationships and social networks that provide support, friendship, love, and hope. Recovery is difficult for any person, but imagine the added challenges for a young person affected by substance use disorders and involved in our systems. For instance, we know that youth involved in juvenile justice are significantly more likely than their peers to have substance abuse or mental health problems. Nearly half of the 94 young people with foster care histories who participated in the Voices of Youth Count in-depth interviews identified placement in foster care as the beginning of their experience with homelessness. A study from Los Angeles County found that dual-status youth were far more likely to be heavy users of public systems, less likely to have high educational attainment, and less likely to be consistently employed. Youth in foster care often have supportive adults in their lives, but may lose connections due to a variety of factors, such as changes in placements or lack of reliable form of communication. Social and recovery capital will help adolescent youth involved in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems to achieve and sustain recovery in these domains. Fortunately, the adolescent brain is wired for growth and is uniquely fit to meet the demands and challenges of this life stage. In partnership with other stakeholders in your community, your team can play an important role in increasing recovery capital for young people in each of these domains. Youth need opportunities to exercise risk and autonomy and the opportunity to nurture their great capacity for resilience. Every young person has the capacity to be resilient, which can be strengthened when the right supports and services are provided. For instance, during adolescence, young people learn how to make decisions and take responsibility for themselves. They will challenge rules and question those in authority. When adolescents raise questions, evaluate answers, and explore new ideas, they have the opportunities to practice important skills in and prepare them for making complex, concrete decisions in adolescence and adulthood. Your team can also walk alongside youth as they face important and stressful transitions, particularly in the areas of housing, employment, and relationships. With support and guidance, youth can engage in important decisions during these transitions and take on important responsibilities, which can build their resilience muscle and improve their self-confidence. As your team matches critical support services to meet the needs of adolescent youth, do not forget that an authentic connection and approach absolutely matters. You can have all the evidence-based programming and essential resources for this population, but if you don't have the right people to deliver them, you will run the risk of not delivering what teenagers need and desire most. Remember, the youth connect to people, not programs. For adolescents to thrive, they need stable, ongoing support from adults who understand them. Here are some strategies to ensure these important connections. This is a challenging population, so employ the best people you can find to work with them. These are individuals who are passionate and love working with adolescents. Consider hiring people with lived experiences, such as former foster youth who have unique contributions and experiences that no one else will have. We know that adolescents benefit from consistent relationships and connections with caring adults. Staff turnover or repeated changes in staff can be very difficult for adolescent youth, so minimizing these disruptions is important. Establishing and maintaining placement stability and supporting resource caregivers is another way to ensure healthy connections. Prioritizing youth voice means acknowledging what they have to say. Not every disagreement is a conflict. Be available to listen to any concerns they share without judgment. In addition to being non-judgmental, treat them fairly with dignity and respect. Judges who adhere to the principles of procedural justice know the difference this kind of connection and interaction can make for youth. Adolescent youth will also pick up on frustration, jadedness, and burnout, so being mindful of use of self are critical, especially for this population. Kids can tell the difference between someone who is just going through the motions and someone who really cares. Now, let's talk about opportunities at the systems level. With approximately 117,000 children ages 13 years and older in foster care and nearly 900,000 children arrested annually, each of these systems are responsible for serving some of the most at-risk youth in our country. Many of these adverse outcomes that were mentioned earlier in this presentation can be avoided with improved policy and practice. The 2019 report, The Promise of Adolescence: Realizing Opportunity for All Youth, published by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, outlines key recommendations on how the child welfare and juvenile justice systems can better support adolescent youth, especially those whose promise is severely limited by the disadvantages that come hand in hand with racism and discrimination. Opportunities for child welfare include: Number 1, reduce racial and ethnic disproportionality and disparities. Number 2, promote resilience and positive outcomes. Number 3, provide services to adolescents and their families that are developmentally informed at the individual, program, and systems level. Number 4, conduct research that reflects the full range of adolescents in the child welfare system. Number 5, foster greater collaboration between the child welfare, juvenile justice, education, and health systems. And finally, number 6, provide developmentally appropriate services for adolescents who engage in non-criminal misconduct. Opportunities for juvenile justice systems include: Number 1, reduce disparities. Number 2, ensure and maintain supportive relationships. Number 3, implement policies that aim to reduce harm. Number 4, implement developmentally appropriate and fair policies and practices. And finally, number 5, prioritize the health and educational needs of adolescents. This report also highlighted recommendations for health and education systems. Together, these 4 systems can disrupt compromised pathways and create pipelines of opportunity for all youth. Achieving these opportunities are fundamental to fostering resilience, building protective factors, and mitigating exposure to adversity and trauma. You can download the report by visiting the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine website. We will further explore opportunities and examples on how child welfare and juvenile justice systems are working together during our live cafe conversation, so please make sure you join us or check out the recording. Collectively, there are opportunities at the systems level where we can also advocate state policies and resources and maximize federal resources and opportunities under the Family First Prevention Services Act, Housing and Urban Development Foster Youth to Independence Program, and the Chafee Foster Care Program for Successful Transition to Adulthood, to support all young people over 18 who exited foster care and meeting their basic needs until at least age 23. These resources and policies can ensure young people's access to critical resources, including direct stipends through independent living, room and board assistance, and health care through Medicaid. I would encourage you to learn more about these and other initiatives that affect youth in your community and state. The last opportunity I want to highlight, and perhaps the most important, is ensuring that adolescents' youth have a voice and choice. While trying to make decisions in their best interest, we can inadvertently and unintentionally disempower youth if decisions are not made in consultation with them. When the courts are involved, this disempowerment can be easily magnified. I don't want to discount the importance of professional expertise and wisdom and positions of authority and accountability. Each of those are important. As professionals and persons of authority, however, we should remember if we want to make the greatest impact and connection with youth, we have to be aware of our use of self. So our approach, as evidenced in this list, absolutely matters. Youth voice and engagement are widely regarded as best practices in meeting the needs of young people in foster care and juvenile justice systems. But youth voice has additional tangible benefits for youth and young adults, which I want to highlight here. Youth voice and choice are critical functions in supporting adolescent brain development. In case planning, youth voice allows them to practice critical developmental tasks such as the ability to envision the future, create, plan, and follow through, all skills to be exercised in the transition to adulthood. Engaging youth in decision-making at every step of their case and treatment plan facilitates growth, strengthens protective factors, supports development of leadership skills, improves self-esteem, helps form critical social connections, and promotes self-actualization. Critical to promoting and supporting youth voice is the strengthening of youth-adult partnership, thus shifting the power differential. Listening with the intent to understand conveys empathy and will ensure that you are better able to identify with youth. Youth voice can also guide and influence agency policy, directions, priorities to better reflect what youth need and want, so consider including them in your governance structure. Use youth voice to design staff trainings and raise community awareness. In other words, nothing about them without them. I want to close by sharing a poem by Samuel Ullman, a businessman, humanitarian, and poet, who was born in 1840, of Jewish parents in Germany, and at the age of 11 immigrated with his family to the United States. His family settled in Alabama, and in 1884, Ullman moved to the young city of Birmingham, where he was immediately placed on the city's first board of education. In his 18 years of service, Ullman advocated educational benefits for Black children similar to those provided for white children. He is best known for his beloved poem, which he wrote at the age of 78, entitled Youth. Nobody grows old by merely living a number of years. People grow old only by deserting their ideals. Years wrinkle the skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. Worry, doubt, self-distrust, fear, and despair, these are the quick equivalents of the long years that bow the head and turn the growing spirit back to dust. Whether age 70 or 16, there is, in every being's heart, the love of wonder, the sweet amazement of the stars and the star-like things and thoughts, the undaunted challenge of events, the unfailing childlike appetite for what's next. You are as young as your faith, as old as your doubt, as young as your self-confidence, as old as your fear, as young as your hope, as old as your despair. So long as your heart receives messages of beauty, cheer, courage, grandeur, and power from the earth, from man and from the infinite, so long are you young. I hope today's presentation has challenged you to re-examine any feelings of doubt, fear, and despair, and transform them so you can move forward with hope, faith, and confidence when meeting the needs of adolescent youth affected by substance use disorders and involved in child welfare and juvenile justice systems. Your success is inextricably connected to their success, and we have many windows of opportunities to change the narrative and write new chapters for their future if we do it together. Please contact us at fdc@cffutures.org if we can be of any further assistance. We hope you found this presentation helpful as you strengthen your partnerships, elevate your practice, and improve outcomes for youth and families. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our webinar presentation. To further your learning, please download the webinar discussion guide, which provides questions for your team to explore and next steps and resources to move your team forward. Again, for more information about Children and Family Futures, the Learning Academy, and the FDC TTA program, please visit our website, our Family Drug Court blog, or email us. Thank you, and we hope to see you again here at the Family Drug Court Learning Academy.